Alright, what's up guys? We're going to be looking at Blitz Storm Spirit, and let's go ahead and hop into the game right away here. I'll go ahead and play this. Perfect. Alright, so we're going to be looking at Blitz's Storm Spirit. We're going to be looking at how he levels Storm Spirit. I believe there's a very standard way of leveling it, and I believe he's going to follow that this game. I have looked at this game in the past, and I didn't watch it all the way through though, only of the first little bit of it, so I'm excited to watch it all the way through. And this is a fantastic game by Blitz, I believe, on the Storm Spirit, so it's a really good one to follow if you're wanting to learn how to play Storm Spirit. Which is the point, right? You want to learn a hero, you want to learn from the best if possible, and Blitz is one of the best Storm Spirit players in the world, in my opinion. I think his two best heroes are probably Storm Spirit and Timbersaw, and he's quite good at both of those heroes, especially as, I don't know which one's better, but he's really good at both of those heroes. So big respect to Blitz, and he's definitely one of my favorite pros out there, at least in terms of his attitude, and he's a really fun player to just listen to as he talks and everything. So I thought it'd be great to do one of his games, and so here it is, Blitz Storm Spirit. So as you can see, level 1, he went on the Static Remnant, and this is great for farming the goal here, right? You can notice what he did there. The goal here is to use this for farming, but right there what he did was he dropped the Static Remnant, which, if we go over his abilities really quick, Storm Spirit, and I'm going to go ahead and pause this for just 1 second, and we're going to talk about Storm Spirit's abilities. So, Storm Spirit's abilities, you drop a Static Remnant right here, and it'll last for 12 seconds, and it will detonate if an enemy unit comes near, so creeps or heroes. This also gives you Flying Vision in an AoE, a small AoE, kind of about nighttime vision-ish range. So you can use this to check, for example, inside the Roche Pit. You can drop one right here and see inside the Roche Pit with Flying Vision. You can do it like when you're in this kind of a situation where you have like you drop the Remnant right here so you can see the high ground. You can do it right here, drop the Remnant, see the high ground. There's a few different ways you can do it, and Blitz definitely takes advantage of that in this game. So second ability is Electric Vortex. It pulls an enemy unit towards Storm Spirit's location, and it'll last for up to 2.5 seconds at the maximum level, and it also slows Storm Spirit by 50%. So if this is a very low level, like say only one level in this, then you're going to be pulling the enemy hero for 1 second and slowing yourself for 3. So at level 1, this can be potentially bad for you to use. So it gets better and better as you level it, simply because you'll be disabling the enemy player for as long as you are currently slowed, almost as long. It's 2.5 seconds versus 3 seconds. So pretty big difference there. Now the Overload is your passive and on Storm Spirit, and when you level Overload, it's going to, whenever you cast a spell, it's going to give it an Overload charge into Storm Spirit's hand, and that's going to allow him to do an 80% movement slow for only 0.6, so it doesn't last very long. It's a very short duration movement slow. It also slows the enemy's attack to by 50%, so that's really big when you're in a one-on-one situation. And it gives Storm Spirit a bonus 30 magical damage into his attack. So it's really useful for just getting extra DPS and for giving you the ability to kite the enemy, as well as to catch up to the enemy. So and you want to get as many Overload charges as possible. And lastly is this Ball Lightning, this disjoints. It also scales up in cost as you level it, but it does also scale up in damage. You also zip around faster. You turn into a ball of lightning and you zip around, and this will basically you can use this to disjoint. If you zip from, based on how far you zip, you'll do more damage to whatever target you cross with your lightning path, and then also how wide of the damage like you'll do. So the path of destruction gets wider the higher you level it up. And mana drain per unit of distance, it actually stays the same. Sorry, correction. The mana drain per unit of distance stays the same. It's 1% of Storm Spirit's mana, but it does have an initial cost to using it, which I guess is technically it costs more to use it every time, because it's 15 mana cost plus 7% of the total mana pool, which meaning even if you have 5,000 mana and you activate this, 7% of that mana is going to go into the cost of doing your Ball Lightning, and then 1% for however much distance you travel. So that said, let us continue. Let us continue. So we're going to be watching Storm Spirit watch Blitz as he uses the Storm Spirit here. One thing he does a lot of that you'll notice is that he will try to get two or more creeps both low, so that when his static remnant pops, it'll pop both creeps at once, or the whole creep wave at once. And it's a much more reliable way of getting the last hits, rather than just trying to right-click the last hits down for both of them. That prevents the enemy hero from getting denies on you, because your static remnant does 140 damage. It becomes a lot easier to last hit. So there he goes. He tries to do it again, and does it again. So with the 2 and 2, so he does the range one and then the first one. And tries to time it so that the range one and the first one being damaged on the melee both go down at the same time to the first static remnant, and then he does it for the next two. So really smart, well played, and it's a great way to get a lot of farm. Let's go ahead and take a look at the last hits. You can see Blitz is actually leading the entire game, 15-4. Now, part of that is that the middle lane gets the creep waves faster than the side lanes. The creeps do move in here shorter because it's not as far of a distance. So the side lanes are not going to be able to keep up as much. Now, Blitz got the bottle right away. He went Talisman into a couple Tangos, into a Healing Salve, and then bought the bottle. And I think he had a couple shared Tangos, if I recall correctly. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back at it. But it's pretty common for a Storm Spirit to get a Null Talisman, or the pieces of a Null Talisman, or perhaps some Ironwood branches and some Tangos. And it depends on, too, if you've got your teammates to help you out. The Null Talisman has great value if you can complete it and also get a couple Tangos from your teammates. So again, Static Remnant blowing up both of the melee creeps at the same time. Now the Overload Charge will not be discharged from your hand when you deny creeps or when you attack enemy towers. It has to be enemy units, so there you go. And also the Overload Charge does an AoE effect. So like this 30 damage right here is an AoE kind of small area nuke. And I'm not sure how big of a radius it is. But basically, just keep in mind this does do AoE as well. I'm not sure exactly about that, so I'm not going to make a definitive statement about whether it's his whole damage or whether it's just the 30 damage he got from the Overload. We can kind of take a look at that actually right now. Here, let me just pause that, and we can pull up the damage right here. Storm Spirit hits melee creep with Static Remnant for 140 damage, and hits melee creep with Overload for 30 for 30. Okay. Storm Spirit hits melee for 66. So it's just the Overload damage that goes in an AoE, not his actual full damage. So I'm glad I got that resolved here in the middle of the cast, because I want to make sure that everything I say in these videos is absolutely correct for the current patch and time frame that we're in. And so anyway, Storm Spirit, there's two major builds that you can go with Storm Spirit that is very common in the pros and in the pub scene, at least at the high level. And that is, you go for the Power Treads and then Orchid, or you go for the basically it's Power Treads, Orchid, or Arcanes into Bloodstone. And Arcanes into Bloodstone is really great because it increases your mana pool, gives you lots of mana regen, and then that Arcane booster goes into that Bloodstone after you get the Bloodstone. And basically, you don't have to buy Treads before you get the Bloodstone, which allows you to get that Bloodstone a little bit faster. So again, he's tried to use the Static Remnant there, didn't quite get the timing right. He's going to go for the last hit. And again, using the Overload Charge to help him last hit a little bit better. I don't think he should have got that last hit, but he backed up a little sooner. So he's Bottle Crowing. Typically what you want to do to Bottle Crow is right at the 3-minute, 30-second mark, or like the 30 seconds before the rune is about to spawn, you want to either send the courier to yourself if you're not going to check the rune at all. Or if you want to check the rune, you send the courier right behind your tower, And then you check the rune. If you get the rune, you just send the courier back home. And if you don't get the rune, you drop the bottle back off the tower, and the courier takes it and goes back. And you do that preemptively. It's probably closer to the 45-second mark, I would imagine, is when you call the courier. So again, using the double kill with the static remnant to get the farm. And I think he's just trying to conserve the mana. That's why he didn't do that. And also, I think that other creep was pretty low already. That he might not get both of them with the static remnant if he's tried to get the other one low enough. I don't know. Okay, so just looking at his skill build. First level static remnant, second level overload. Max vortex with getting ball lightning at level 6. This is the most standard build on Storm Spirit. And I believe it's pretty much, you have to pretty much go this build. No, you don't have to. But this is the best build you can go. It's the build that I've seen on almost every highly touted guide on Storm Spirit back when I was doing research. And then also, it's the most mana efficient, and that's, like, if I try to explain why. Basically, this is the most mana efficient build for putting out the most damage with the least amount of mana. So you Electric Vortex, that gives you an overload charge. Then you Static Remnant. Well, you probably Ball Lightning first, attack once, use your overload charge. Then you do Electric Vortex, use your overload charge. Then you Static Remnant, do your overload charge. And then you, by that time, they're probably just coming out of your Electric Vortex. You drop another Static Remnant, and then maybe Ball Lightning away. So that's usually what you do. So he saw that they were diving Nigma. TP's in, great TP reaction. Notice what he does there. He uses his static remnant to get the extra bonus damage, as well as do an AoE damage to both the Alchemist and Doom. And then he pulls the Alchemist in. And this is really important. Pulling the right target that you, like, basically the target you want to focus first is really important. And you always want to drop the static remnant right as you get to the location and start pulling them to your location. So you drop the static remnant, attack them, pull, attack them, and then they're going to hit that static remnant that you first put down. And by the time they hit it, you're ready to put down another static remnant. And then also, one thing he did there to keep himself alive when Doom was hitting him is he did a very, very tiny ball lightning, just like from like his, like, it's like an inch, and he like inched along. And it's important to do that because it made Doom stop his attack and go attack again. He has to right click Storm again because it disjoints his current aggro, if that makes sense. So you always want to be using ball lightning, oftentimes in little tiny bursts, just to disjoint people's attacks. And you can do that for spells. Some spells are going to stay on you no matter what you do. You have to be in ball lightning form in order to dodge it. So for example, when you're dodging a gyrocopter missile, you have to ball lightning into the missile. Otherwise, you're not going to get it. So I don't think they're going to go on this. It's a little too far. Aosin being kind of ballsy, and he's going to pay for it. One thing I would say is that Aosin tends to overextend a lot, at least I think, and I think it just comes down to him being kind of nervous. You know, I think this is, you know, the first time he's doing pro matches, as far as I know. Anyway, he might have been on a smaller pro team, but I think Aosin is at the proper level to play pro, but he's made a lot of silly mistakes that I don't think he normally would make, and so I think it's just nerves getting to him. So yeah. So you'll see Aosin overextend a few times in this match. So it looks like Blitz is going to be going for the Purge is going to be going. Or sorry, I keep saying Purge. Blitz is going to be going for the Orchid this game, and the Orchid is basically a way to amplify your damage tremendously. So you ball lightning in, you electric vortex, you Orchid them, and then your static remnant is going to hit them. Your two static remnants are going to hit them during the time that the Orchid is going, and during the time that they're silenced, and that's going to amplify the total amount of damage that you're doing. So you want to Orchid them during the time that you're dealing the most damage, because that's going to kill them the quickest. Now you can alternatively Orchid them after using an electric vortex if you know you're not going to kill them. And for example, like a Weaver would be better to Orchid right after the electric vortex, because he would go into Sakuchi or potentially time-lapse out. And that's only if you're not going to kill him during the electric vortex, during the initial silence. That's the key. So if he has lots of HP, then you might want to wait to Orchid until just towards the end of the electric vortex. But simple fact is, you want to Orchid before you do damage, so that the damage you do during the silence is amplified by 30%. That's how Orchid works. Here, I can just pull up that information. So for newer players that are watching can kind of get an idea. So Orchid silences the target for 5 seconds, amplifies the damage it takes by 30%. So again, you want to silence them almost always during the time that you're doing the most damage to them, because it'll basically buff the damage that you do personally. I think I need to go back to player perspective. There we go. Okay, looks like Sexy Mambo got doomed up. And Blitz, notice what he's doing? He's focusing the weak targets. Once the weak targets are down, like Rubik and Nyx, those are their most reliable stuns. Alchemist has a charge-up time and is also much more tanky. So first you take out the weakest targets. That's like Storm Spirit's strength, right? He can instantly jump from one side of the map, or at least one area of the map, to the other side. So he can, like right there, he was on the high ground near the tower, or be up on the high ground there, to the top of the tower there. And he instantly zipped down into the river, picked off the Rubik before the Rubik could do anything. And then also picked up the Nyx following that. He's going to be pulling the Weaver in here. And this was a little bit silly overcommitment. And this is where you wish you had your... Orchid, because the Weaver right there, for example, would have died if he had managed to get the Orchid off. Just from the bonus damage, and also from the fact that he wouldn't be able to time-lapse after Rubik picked him up. So right there, he was trying to do a Ball Lightning into the Alchemist stun, but the turn time on Storm Spirit didn't allow for it. So notice for his build, he goes and maxes Electric Vortex first, then you max your passive Overload, and then you go into Ball Lightning as your next ability. You want to always max your ultimate whenever you have it with Storm Spirit, and then your and then obviously you go into your Static Remnant. You don't want to go for stats in this particular hero. Some heroes you benefit a lot from getting stats over perhaps a weaker ability, or an ability that scales much better into the far late game or something like that. But with Storm Spirit, his abilities are fantastic and they level up quite well. Now, as far as being mana efficient, like I was talking about before, the Static Remnant increases in mana cost, and this has a 3.5 second cooldown on the Static Remnant, which is insanely low. So if you're constantly spamming Static Remnant, you're able to get a lot of overload charges out of that, right? But if it costs 30 mana more, if you max this, for example, first, then you're not going to be getting as much damage out of your overload charges, and you're going to run out of mana much faster in the early game. And that's mainly what I'm talking about, just the early game. Great job zipping in, seeing the opportunity, zipping in from the tower. And keep in mind, he did have tower regen for just about 3 seconds after you TP in. You could maintain tower regen. So you're able to he was able to utilize that Ball Lightning and not completely run out of mana. I don't think he was even at full mana when he started TPing in, but he just went for it anyway. Notice he's also utilizing power, his tread switching. When he was bottling there, he had switched over to, I believe, Agi during that time. And now it's switched over to Intelligence. And Intelligence gives you just more right-click damage. I think that's the main idea. And also it increases your total mana pool. And obviously if you're being focused, you want to have it on Strength. Zipping into the middle of the heroes here. Managing to grab the Alchemist, wreaking a lot of havoc. Notice he's using the tread switching there again. He switched it to Strength temporarily while he was being hit by the tower. And I think he could have been utilizing tread switching a little bit sooner and a little bit more often. Okay, he's got a regen rune. He could potentially try to do something with this. Regen runes are the most amazing runes on Storm Spirit because you can continually zip around as long as you don't take any damage. It's almost like infinite zip around for several seconds. But he does not. So notice what he's doing here. He's leaving the remnant there just to give him flying vision in that area. And again, using it to get vision. I don't even know if that maybe it's not flying vision. It should be flying vision. I don't know. It didn't look like it was flying vision there, but I'm pretty sure it is flying vision, unless they nerfed it. If it's not flying vision, I will add an annotation to when I was talking about it earlier. But I'll need to check. But I'm not going to check in the middle of the video here, so. Sexy Bamboo, microing the Eidolons to make sure that they all spawn. So Blitz here has a DD rune. He wants to make sure he uses that at the right time if possible. And he does have his Orchid finished. I'm sorry if I missed that, but he has his Orchids finished, and it's at a good timing. It's actually at a really good timing. And he's had it finished for at least a little bit here. So the Weaver is going to go down. I don't think the Weaver has a Lincoln's yet. No, the Weaver isn't even going for Lincoln's. I think the Weaver goes for a BKB in this game. Now Storm Spirit does pick up the Aegis, and the Aegis is especially good on Storm Spirit simply because Storm Spirit's ability to do damage is heavily based upon how much mana he has. And when he is able to respawn and get a full mana pool back, it means that he will be able to basically do twice as much damage in the team fight. Like almost, basically literally twice as much damage. And manages to pick off Rubik right there. And I'm not sure if he goes down here. I don't think he does. No. No, he's going to be fine. He pops that DD rune. He's anticipating another fight. They zip through and finish off with the overload charge. Notice he zipped. I want you to notice that he zipped across the Nyx onto the other side of the Nyx. And that's important because he does the extra damage with the ball lightning. So how you zip in and where you zip is super important because it means that you can be more mana efficient with your damage. Rather than doing a shorter zip, it's better to do a little bit longer zip and deal that bonus 150, 200, 300 damage depending on how far you're zipping. And damage is dealt based on damage per unit. So if you're going, let's say 1,000 units, which is about as wide as this far that I'm moving my mouse right here. If you go that far, it does 120 damage. At level 3 ultimate, it does 160 damage. So that means if you travel really far, like all the way across the screen, you're going to be talking about like a 400 damage nuke basically if you go all the way across the screen. But it's going to drain a larger percentage of your mana, so it's riskier. You always have to be careful to not overuse your mana and run out. And Blitz is doing a fantastic job this game of not overusing his mana. He's jumping in at the right distances. He's not overcommitting, and he's not undercommitting as well. So this Doom up here, I don't think the Doom has a TP scroll if I recall correctly, and so it's a pretty big deal that this Doom doesn't have TP scroll, and he's really screwing over his team right now, in my opinion. It's super important to have a TP scroll at all times, and it's a little silly mistake coming out from whoever this Doom is. All In Rain. And this is the Zephyr versus All In game from the Nexon tournament. You can see the overload charge doing a AoE for 90. And so right now Blitz is tanking the tower because he has Aegis. He wants to get, he's not afraid to just use his mana up and die. That's totally fine. He doesn't want to just uselessly pop the Aegis if possible, but so this Doom is committing hardcore to this tower, and basically saying, "Good luck, team. You have to go 4 on 5 when they're trying to defend racks." It's just not a good idea. Aosin using the Sandstorm. Notice that the Alchemist concoction is physical. It did damage to Corey there. Even though he had Rage activated. So notice he's TPing into the mid towers so that Doom does not recognize the fact that he is being ganked. It's super important, okay? And it's kind of good almost for all in that Doom died there, because now he's able to buy back and be with his team. So they actually have 5 people defending bottom now, which is going to force Team Zephyr back. Now I believe the Aegis wears off here soon. And Blitz knows that the Aegis is going to wear off soon, so he's waiting. He's waiting to use it, and he's not really afraid of dying. Look at that, going down to 8 HP. You know, if he dies, you know, big deal, right? You instantly come back and have full HP and mana, and you got some creeps out of it that you wouldn't have had before. So just looking at what Blitz is doing now, he's going into that Bloodstone, and the Bloodstone is kind of the carry-oriented item on a Storm Spirit, more so than the Orchid. The Orchid is a little bit more utility and not as much carry, simply because once you get a bunch of charges up on that Bloodstone, the Bloodstone, by the way, let's go ahead and talk about the Bloodstone. He just picked up that Bloodstone. So Bloodstone, it's got a passive that gains charges every time an enemy hero dies within 1675 range. So you don't have to get the kill, it'll automatically still gain the charge. Each charge bestows 1 mana regen, and it reduces how much gold you lose when you die by 25. So if you normally lose 200 gold for dying, if you have 8 charges, you won't lose any gold. Jumping in, picking up the Nyx. Very good. Good play from Aosin there. Jumps in here on the Doom and picks him off. Rubik did get a lift off, but the Rubik should have just let his teammates die. He should not have been there. That's one of those situations where you really want to help your teammates, right? But there's no helping a 5-on-2 situation where the Nyx is already dead. So right there, he picks up 3 charges. This instantly bumps up his mana. So once you have 20 charges, for example, it's going to bump up your mana by 20 additional on top of having the Bloodstone, the Bloodstone's 200% mana regen already. So whenever the bearer dies, you restore 400 HP plus 30 HP per charge to allied units within an AoE around you. So you can use this to suicide and heal your team. It's like a giant mech in an AoE. Bloodstone's amazing, an amazing item. And finally, the biggest thing is that when you die, you get experience, and your respawn timer is reduced by 4 seconds per charge. So if you have 10 seconds, that's a 40-second reduction. If you have a Bloodstone of 20 charges, you'll be back within... If you have an 80-second respawn time, you will be instantly returned to battle. So unless you're like right now, Purge would probably or Blitz would have probably a 15-second wait time if he died with 11 charges at level 16. As he levels this up and gets more charges, his respawn time is just going to go down and down and down. So a great combination to go with the Bloodstone is a Boots of Travel, which allows you to instantly get back to the fight because your Bloodstone is going to make you respawn incredibly quickly if you're snowballing properly. And obviously the thing about the Bloodstone too is that Storm Spirit really takes advantage of all that extra mana regen that you get from the charges. So that's my spiel about Bloodstone on Storm Spirit. It's really, really good, and it's something that a lot of people, I mean, at the high levels it's utilized perfectly, but at the low levels, utilizing that heal when all of your teammates are almost dead, getting those Boots of Travel and getting right back into the fight, all that stuff. Alchemist is charging up a stun. He's going to throw this on Corey, and of course the damage goes through, but the stun does not, because the stun is magical and the damage is physical. So good initiation by Aosin there, and great follow-up by Sexy Bambo. Really well done. Notice how he zipped across the 2 heroes, and he silences up the Alchemist, which prevents him from charging an Unstable Concoction again. And then he zips after him, pulls him during the time that the Orchid finishes, so that it's continued disable, not able to charge a Concoction. And overall, really, really great. Now, this is basically GG, I believe. I don't think that All-In can stop them at this point. Storm Spirit has way too much farm, and Lifestealer also has an insane amount of farm. Jumping in. Pyrian Flax is even calling GG. The announcer pack. Nice blank initiation from Sexy Bambo there. Now, Storm Spirit does have fairly low mana. When you have low mana on Storm Spirit, you rely on very short zips, followed by an Electric Vortex. That's usually what you want to do, but you have to do more walking, a little more planning and preparation when you have a low mana pool. Now, just look at his mana. He's regenerating mana at 40 mana per second. This is the power of the Bloodstone when you get 18 charges right here. This is like you're out of combat for 20 seconds, and bam, you have full mana from no mana. It's incredibly, incredibly powerful. So, looks like they are going to go to the top lane, and this is probably going to be the last fight of the match, I believe. I don't think that All In can stop them at this point. They have too much farm, too many items, and honestly, like Zephyr's team coordination this game has been really, really good. I'd say except for maybe Aosin overextending there in that mid lane that one time. And I haven't seen him overextend again. I haven't been watching him the entire game. But I remember him maybe overextending. I didn't notice it this time watching it, but I think he definitely did a couple other times. I don't know. That said, let's just move on. Alright, so Storm Spirit almost has full mana again here, Blitz. And looks like he's going to be going for Lincolns, it looks like. Let's see here. That's usually what you go after you've got these two items, Lincolns or BKB. Oftentimes you'll get BKB beforehand if they have lots of disable, but I don't know, we'll see. Looks like it's not a Lincoln. Oh, actually, I think it is a Lincoln's, but he just doesn't have the Ring of Health yet. He just has the orb, ultimate orb at this point. So, Blitz getting doomed up. This is the first time Storm Spirit has been doomed this game, and that's largely because of how he's been initiating. The enemy team has not been initiating on Blitz. Blitz has been initiating on them from all kinds of angles and everything. Just right-clicking Weaver here. Weaver just having a rough game. Not enough farm on the Weaver in time. And it results in All In, GGing out, and that is the game. So, what did you guys think of Blitz's Storm Spirit? I thought he played it excellently this game, and just like I would expect him to, it's one of his best heroes without a doubt. That and Timbersaw, I would say, and he does play other heroes fairly well. He's got a decent DK, that's it. I think, like I said, I think he's one of the best Storm Spirits in the world. That's why I wanted to cast this game. I hope you enjoyed it. If I missed anything or got anything wrong, please point it out. And if you have any feedback for my casting, please, again, I am very open to feedback, and I want to get better, and I would love to do this full time. And I just need to get to that point where I think I have that confidence, and I can smoothly talk in front of large groups of people and get that practice. And I'm working on it. I hope you enjoyed this guide. Again, open to feedback. I will see you guys later. Quadron signing off.